survived the 60s twice. You already know me as the Caladium Lady. I know I'm a walker. I'm sorry. The Caladium Lady. What I need you to know right now is that Florida got hit by 2 hurricanes where the growing is happening. So this year, they can only offer us number 2s. There are no number 1s out there.
Can you move the mic up a little bit?
Sure enough.
Okay, that's good.
There we go. So, our prices will be very good. And what is suggested is that you order 2 times the number 2s to get the effect of a full number 1. So you get 2 bulbs of number 2s, you'll have the same volume as a number 1. So I'll talk more about that in January when you're ordering. So be ready to buy bulbs in January, because probably by February we'll have to close out the orders. Last month we talked about predators in our yard. I too have had predators. This guy slipped out from under the gazebo when I sat down to rest after working for 2 hours and stared at me for a while. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then he ran away. And I was happy he ran away and was not frightened by me, and I tried not to be frightened of him. But this was the coolest thing. Do you recognize that as a green anole? When I saw, hello, there we go. When I saw this dark spot and the crest, I thought it was a new lizard in my yard. And he was in mortal combat with another crested anole. Mortal combat, I'm telling you. It went on for 15 minutes. They were tossing, they were turning, they were biting each other's heads off. It was the most amazing thing to watch. And then I called up my daughter, who's a naturalist at a Audubon park. And I said, what is this animal? And I sent her the picture, and she says, oh, that's just a green anole. And I'm like, no, it isn't. That's what the males look like when they're in territorial mode. So if you see this guy, he's not a new lizard. He's just saying, I'm top dog. So let's get back to this keyhole garden and this thing that I want to do for the next 30 years. I really believe that keyhole gardening was based on hugelkultur, and it has been used for centuries in Eastern Europe, Germany, mound culture. It translates from German. They've been using it to get rid of extra woody debris that can't be used in any other manner. And the site then retains moisture, it builds fertility, and improves drainage. It uses woody debris that's unsuitable for other uses. So you can see it's piled up high, and then they put soil over it. And it slowly decays after 5 years, and it decays even more after 20 years. I believe that keyhole gardening didn't just materialize. I think it was someone who had seen this used in the past. So this is what keyhole gardening is described as. It needs to be a 6-foot diameter. And it's called keyhole because there's an entry, a pie cut out, and this hole, like a key, an old-fashioned skeleton key would go into. This is a compost basket. So it is layered with sticks, small logs, cardboard, newspaper, your basic green stuff and your basic brown stuff. Layered, layered, layered. And then the top few inches is potting soil or topsoil from somewhere, compost if you have it. This is what mine has been. From the very beginning, I started with cardboard at the bottom and sticks. I have so many sticks that fall from my trees. Brown leaves that I collected, they haven't really fallen yet, but they're going to. I actually went to Nash Farm and said, would you mind if I cleaned out your chicken coop and took it away? And they went, you want to do what? And you're not charging us? I said, no, I need some chicken poop. So it was really ripe. All of the clothing I was wearing smelt of urea. My coat, I had to wash everything. I moved it all because it dumped beautifully in this layer. I just immediately dumped it into that layer. And then I put another layer of leaves because I have hundreds. And I also, somewhere around February, I like to cut back all my Liriope, Liriope, depending on who you are. I like to cut it back because I think it looks cleaner and neater. I don't get the ratty brown leaves. And it was so cool because I told my neighbor I was doing this, and she says, well, would you like some more? And she gave me hers when she clipped hers. And that made a wonderful green layer. And then the top layer was a really high-grade potting soil, compost material. I can't tell you the name because it's by hand. Yeah, I know it when I feel it, so I always open a bag and I feel it to see if it's going to hold moisture, if it breaks apart, there's something about the hand of a good soil. It's amazing. But the keyhole, I have kitchen scraps goes into the very center with the yard waste. So this is what it actually looked like the very first year I did it, March of 2018. As you can see, this is my composter. Now, I didn't put it right in the center because I couldn't walk into it because I had only a square compost wired cage, and I thought, I just want to experiment with this. I found out about it that winter. I decided that I wanted to do some additional learning. So I looked up all of the nearby cities' activities, what they were offering, and one of them was Keyhole Gardening out in Keller. And I'm going, God, Keller is really far to drive to. Sorry about that if anybody's from Keller, but to me it just feels like the other side of the universe because I don't travel that way. So I looked it up on YouTube, and after 10, 15 YouTube videos, I'm going, I can do this. And I'm going to experiment with this wire cage. And of course, because it's open, I put cardboard completely around it to hold stuff inside, and did all of the layering that I showed you earlier, and beautiful, beautiful composted soil on the top and the cage. This particular concept was brought in by the missionaries to show the villagers that they could grow their own vegetables. Even though they have severely severe droughts. Duh. Kind of sounds like us. They have really poor soil, very rocky soil. Some of us aren't necessarily in that zone. Some of us have really nice soil. I've visited your yards. But some of you have that caliche stuff. So this would be a great system. So this is later, of course, and you can see that, you know, it's a composting cage. It's kind of ugly. Not exactly what you'd say, not pretty at all. But I had incredible results when growing vegetables. My first tomato harvest. Now, what you got to know is that I planted the same number of plants in the ground with worm castings and all kinds of stuff in the ground. I got a grand total of 3 tomatoes. 3. So this was the first harvest, and there were multiple harvests after that. In fact, that particular plant gave me tomatoes at Christmas because I got indeterminate variety, so it continued producing except the really hot part of summer. My first and only squash. Now, I say only because I was really so excited. It was just beautiful, and it tasted so good. Squash borers are a pain in the, and I have to figure out how to protect against squash borers. And then I'm going to try again this spring, but I just haven't. I think since they aren't pollinated by bees, I think I'm going to put some kind of a clear netting over them and see if I can keep the borers out. That's going to be my experiment this spring. Because you have to hand pollinate them, from what I have found. So we're getting into later. The squash was over here, and I lifted it out because it had succumbed to the squash borers by April, May, and I replanted with basil and other things. Now, this is a shot to say, after a year of growing, I looked out in my garden and I'm going, this is ugly. This is not pretty. I want pretty in my yard. And because I decided I wanted pretty, I decided I was going to go for something that was well made. This particular structure is guaranteed for 30 years. Hence, I'm going to garden for another 30 years because I'm not going to get every year out of that structure. So I got it level, and it's a very easy construction. You basically need a rubber mallet to hammer the pieces in place. Unless you've got a lot of, strength. And they just slide in. I discovered in the other garden that I had voles coming up and tunneling. And so I made the decision that hard cloth was an absolute must at the bottom. Allows the worms to come in, but keeps the critters out. And then all the cardboard you can master. I mean, I don't know about you, but it seems like every time I turn around, there's another box showing up at my house. So I have been using as much as I can in my yard as a mulch, the beginning of mulching beds. Now, this is what I was saying. This is what falls out of my tree every little bit. So I have a lot of branches that I have to find a home for, and I figure if I can compost them at my house, that's better than sending them off to a landfill. So you can also compost waste paper, and yeah, there's envelopes there. As long as it's not shiny, no glossiness. So I got one constructed. I still had the original ugly, and at the same time I decided that the sidewalk had to be relaid, so I had pulled all of my bricks out into the yard in the winter when the grass was dormant and then relayed them before the grass came back into growing. And then I thought, ooh, they have a greenhouse-like top in this collection. I think I'm going to ask for this for my birthday/Christmas and see if my kids come through. And lo and behold, they did. And I was able to get it assembled, get the second one assembled the same way I assembled the first, and attempting to grow turnips for the first time and beets. I think I planted them too close together. We're going to try it again. Get them a little more room. April of 22, this is the little jalapeno plant that produced all these jalapenos. Several of you have taken some. I still have 5 left. If anybody wants these 5, please take them home. I have plenty, and I want to share the wealth. First time I tried nicotine, I'm not very impressed with it. It didn't do much for me. The marigolds, however, were unbelievable. They were fabulous. And these are my Juliets, indeterminate. This is the structure for the greenhouse to be on. I didn't take a picture of it when it was assembled, unfortunately, sorry. But it will go back on probably by March of this year. I'll reassemble the greenhouse, because that soil I need to pull out and rebuild the base again. So we're just growing and happy, and my interior is collecting. Yes?
Mary Lou, you're putting the greenhouse structure on in March so you can do early planting?
Yes.
But you're not trying to use it in the winter?
I will use it in the winter if I can. Okay, let me back that up. I need to take it off of I only have one.
Well,
I'm waiting for the tomato. I know. Well, you know.
it's Christmas.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the Juliets to say we're done, and I checked on them this morning, and the leaves browned, so I think that's done. Even though I've got lots of green tomatoes, so I'm just going to harvest the green tomatoes. Once I get them out, I'll be able to move the structure from.
Are they impeding your movement of it?
Well, because of the cages. The cages are too tall. The cages are too tall.
Because your tomatoes would continue to produce with the greenhouse.
Next year I will organize it better, because as I say, this is an experiment. I've never grown vegetables well, and I'm actually getting vegetables and salads and unbelievable materials. So I'm really liking the way, so there's the whole structure. I'm really liking the way it looks in the garden. It finishes off, it's so much better than that wire cage thing. Though, the wire cage is a great beginning to see if you even want to do this. And it's an easy thing to put out. So here we are, June of 22. This is the Juliet. That's a 5-foot tall cage. So and as fall continued, I leaned it over this. So I've had lots and lots of tomatoes off of this, and lots and lots of basil and green peppers. Now, there's a dead thing here. There's a story. Two potatoes, because I've tried growing potatoes. I went and bought seed potatoes, and I did all the things you're supposed to do. I cut them, I put sulfur on them, I did all of those things. Nothing. I got one thumb size potato. 2 potatoes had sprouted where I keep them right after Christmas, and I went, okay, you go to the compost. As I was walking to the compost, this area was naked, had nothing growing in it at all. And on a wild whim, I dug a hole, stuck the potatoes in there. Didn't cut them, didn't do any fancy anything. I had enough potatoes out of those 2 to make mashed potatoes for 4 to 5 people. And I didn't even try, and it was the Keyhole Garden compost, because it is the most friable, unbelievable material. And I'm going to try again. So here it is, July. Still gigantic, still going. And it's July. We've had a drought. It's green. I'm only watering every 3rd or 4th day. That never happened when I tried to grow in the ground. Never. Never happened. Now, August, they're showing a little, they're getting a little hurt. But I've still got, as I say, still have them hanging on the vine. I'm going to harvest them today when I get home and bring them in the house and just say, you're going to ripen on the windowsill, and we'll see what happens. Now, next adventures. There's this incredible woman in Southern California. Her name's Robbie. She has a YouTube channel. Anybody watch Robbie and Gary? No, nobody's watching them. She is a hummingbird fanatic. So that's really fun. But she does this different kind of gardening. And it inspired me to try it in these fancy pots. Basically, and you see that they're up on a chair, an old nasty plastic chair. So they're at waist height. I don't have to bend over to take care of them. Again, I had sweet potatoes that were past their prime for eating. And I shoved them into these 2 different pots. I got sweet potatoes. I can't believe it. And I didn't even know what I was doing, because now I know when you have this vine, you should take the vine and put it against the ground and tag it, pin it down on the ground so that it puts out a new root, because every place it puts out a new root, that's where the sweet potato grows.
It works for the ornamental sweet potatoes too.
Okay, I don't know. I've not grown them. So these are actual, from the grocery store, sweet potatoes. And so next year, because they don't grow in the winter, they don't like winter, I harvested it because the leaves all turned brown because of the 32-degree nights we had. So I was rather excited that it actually worked. I actually got something. Now, this is a variation on the Keyhole Garden in that it has a reservoir at the bottom, and these two black tubes allow you to pour water directly into that reservoir, and then it brings it by osmosis, it brings the water up into the plant. And that seems to be a better way for certain of the herbs that I tried growing. Was very pleased, because this is early in the season. This is very early in the season. Now it completely covers. This is a thyme that completely covers. All the thyme has always died on me. I don't know why, but it does.
Mary Lou, is that are those special pots, or is that just a tube you bought?
No, I was up at Mike's Nursery, and they had 50, 60% off, and I saw it, and I thought, I'm going to try it out. So it's got a reservoir at the bottom, and it has some kind of a tray thing that you put. I don't remember what the structure looks like, but I'm leading to is that is structured like this next experiment. And the next experiment is what Robbie and Gary in Southern California do. They take totes, or bins, as you may choose, and they layer the bottom with sticks. And then they put brown stuff and green stuff and brown stuff and green stuff, whatever they have sitting around the house, the yard, they've harvested. And then the last 4 to 6 inches is good potting soil or compost. The woman creates so much compost because within a year, this will all be the most beautiful compost, and you don't have to turn it. There is no muscle involved.
Do they put any holes in the bottom of or the top?
Do you see these little round divots? Those are holes that I used a soldering iron to poke holes through because it worked really fast. You could use a drill, but to me that requires too much, I don't know. It's more involved than the soldering iron. A soldering iron, you just heat it up and you go, and it happens really fast. Melts that plastic down. Now, yes.
The picture that's in there.
Yes.
It's got holes in the bottom or the bottom cut out.
Okay.
Your blue picture.
This blue, okay, I'm sorry, thank you for, I skipped over that part. That blue picture is the next layer of Robbie and Gary's, because it's a mini Keyhole Garden. This is more compost, fresh composting material, things from your house, things from your yard. You put it in this pitcher. There are multiple holes cut, again with the soldering iron, all up and down the thing. And what is cool here, the white lid completely seals it off from fruit flies and other flying critters that sometimes you see in your compost. Okay. And so, again, She's doing this in Southern California. I want to see if this is viable here in Texas. And I've got it on raised cinder blocks, but I'm going to make a couple more of these, and I have a couple more old garden plastic chairs, and I'm going to put them on those old garden plastic chairs. And I planted some lettuce and some, it's called celery, something to do with celery, but it doesn't create stalk. Stalkless celery, I think it might be called. I'm thinking about trying some garlic in this zone. I haven't made a firm decision. I may plant some more lettuce. I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
So after a year, it's all composted by itself?
It will compost completely by itself. And this is why I know that. Those big 4-foot beds, the first year, because I knew nothing, my wire cage, I thought you had to take it completely apart and start all over again because there was nobody to guide me for what to do next. I dug all of the soil out in every container I could find. And when I got to the bottom, there were 2 sticks that were recognizable. Everything, and they weren't even that long. They were, little. Everything else had completely turned into black, rich compost material.
So you don't have to do anything in spring, you just pull out the dead plants and put in the new ones. Do you ever start from seed?
Yes, and I experimented with that last year, and I'm having marginal luck because it's the transplanting the seed after it starts and getting it into the ground and making it happy that I've had some issues with. But it's called experimenting.
What season?
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to do that direct sow this year because I was just trying to see. I'm sorry, I'm the kind of person who's never done anything, so I'm going, I want to see if I can make a seed germinate. I don't, because I didn't trust that it would know what to do if I stuck it in the ground. I thought I had to watch it and baby it and love on it and talk to it or something. I don't know.
So did you then disassemble that keyhole?
Completely disassembled it. Brought everything, spread out the compost. I saved some of it for the top layer, and I rebuilt, doing exactly what I'd done before, went back up to Nash Farm, dug out their chicken coop again.
That's an annual thing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Well, I figure that's, if I don't, okay, this is my philosophical point of view. I am 70. If I don't make myself fit, how am I going to throw rock around at 85? Because that has been my goal. I herniated a disc in my neck and lost my right arm completely the last year I was teaching. Didn't have use of it, couldn't move it. It was in pain constantly. Exercised my way back to health with the PT. Then I've retired. The next year, sciatica hit, and my knee just woes out from under me. And I'm going, so I go straight to the PT. I say, what do I need to do? Ladies and gentlemen, this is how I'm going to garden for another 30 years. The structure's warranted for 30 years, so I'm going to have my raised garden forever. Now, do I have to completely disassemble it? No. This year, I'm going to experiment with just raking the soil to one side of the structure, putting all my compostable material down, and then moving it back over the compostable material, and then laying compost material on the opposite side. I'm going to see if there's less effort to do it. Can I approach this by a wheelchair? Yes! If I should end up that way. I don't want to, but I watched my mother-in-law end up that way. Protecting my finger joints. Okay, this is my share the weirdness. These are called gel corn protectors for your toes. The tips of my finger joints have started to become angry 5-6 years ago. They started swelling and deforming. Because of my medical background studies, I said, okay, I've got to support and constrict and try to get it. So I created a splint, and that was really awkward. And then I went looking, and lo and behold, I found these little elastic guys with a gel pad, and I could put them on my joint. And when I was teaching and I ran my hand into the chalkboard, I didn't have the excruciating pain of hitting that tender joint. And I sleep with these when these joints are, I call it angry, agitated, and they have prevented my fingers from deforming anymore. I went to my GP because they were really, really angry the week before I went to see the GP, and she says, oh, we have to test you for which arthritis? Rheumatoid arthritis. And I said, fine, draw the blood. Oh no, you have to go to a specialist. To draw the blood? I don't think so, but so I went to the specialist and I showed her this, and she said, oh my God, I've been trying to tell all my patients to do this, and you have now made it so simple. Now, if these are a little bit tight, you take them between your thumb and you do this, and it pops some of the elastic so it's not quite so tight. And I throw them in the laundry and wash them if I've used them in the garden. These are the most amazing things.
Got a question in the back.
Where? Yes. Walmart. It's a toy. We might find them at the grocery stores, but it's a toe protecting joint corn thing. It's. I'll leave it up here so you can see it. Take a picture of it if you want. The other thing. Number 6, protecting the big toe joint. In '92, my mother died, and she had all these bunions and crap happening with her feet. And so I've been extra sensitive to any pains that happen, and I thought, I'm going to prevent as much as I can for as long as I can. I got the beginnings of a bunion in my left foot. Really painful, really tender. I went out and found, again, at the grocery store in the pharmacy section or Walmart, it's called a toe spacer. It's a little silicone pad. As soon as I put that between my great toe and the other toes, and then I wore a sock to bed, it kept that toe in alignment, and the pain went down dramatically. And I have not had it shift any more than it is right now since I started using this spacer. Again, the arthritic doctor said, brilliant, and I went, thank you. Work rest, classic arthritis training. A lot of us think, well, I have to just finish this. No, you don't have to just finish it. If you are feeling like right now, I've got a little bit of a twinge right here, which means in a few minutes I absolutely have to sit down because my body's telling me I've overdone. You stop before it gets painful. painful. You listen to the little twinge and you sit down. You take a load off. If resting in a seated position doesn't work, then you need to do some basic stretches. Now, I spent $500 to $1,000 with PT, and they taught me all these stretches. I figure I should be able to show them to you, and then you can look them up and check with your doctors to see if they're safe. You put your foot out, and you lift your arms up. Oh, that feels good. Oh my God. And it really did. It just immediately took the pressure off my back. And then you lean towards your foot. Now, most of you probably cannot do this reaching past your toe. I was gifted with overly extensive joints. But this releases the tension in the back. Now you do it on one side, you got to do it on the other. Oh, and you breathe out to relax. My absolute favorite. Now I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do it. So you're actually supposed to be laying down on the ground, but you're in a seated position. So you're laying on, this is the ground. My arm is here. I put my hand there, and I follow the hand all the way, let's see if I can, all the way around, and I am able to twist all the way to touch the ground again, and that releases all of the tension back here. That is my favorite sciatica nerve stretch. It stopped the pain. I would lay down in the grass. I did it on one side. You have to do it on the other, even if it's one. Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay, that is where yoga has come into play, because they have shown me how to, well, I am not offended. I hope you're not offended if I get down. If you're down on the ground doing this, you should be able to get into this position with all fours, I'm hoping. And the cat-cow stretches help loosen up the back. And then you put one leg in front of you. If you need extra help, one leg in front helps. But you push up, bring the foot forward, bend the knee, yoga taught me that, to get up from, and you bend the knee when you're coming up, because that protects here, and you're strengthening the thigh muscles so that you can bend down and do things. But because of the raised beds, I'm not going to have to get down on my knees very often, which, since I have bad knees, I'm really excited about that. My favorite thing, though, is to just sit and ponder God's creation. Now, if anybody really wants to talk about stretches, I have a whole book. I kept every stretch, official PT stretch that they gave me, and exercise. If anybody wants to see those, I'd be happy to share them, because I believe we have to stop pain in the simplest manner possible, with the least amount of drugs. I never understood it was a 3-dog night. I never understood it was a 3-dog night until I saw that. If you have questions about gardening, I highly recommend the Master Gardener Hotline. Please write that number down, take a photo of it. It should be on your speed dial. It is, it's wonderful to be able to talk to people who are into gardening, and when you ask them a question, they look for answers for you. Any additional questions? I wandered everywhere. In the back.
The very beginning, you had the layer of greens and chicken coop. Are those the same?
Okay, the chicken coop is green. It's green because it's full of urea and nitrogen. Green material is full of nitrogen, and that's why, and the brown material is full of carbon. So you're holding on to your own carbon if you put your carbon into a composting situation. What I love about this is that I don't have to turn it. And I'm planting directly on it. Oh, the other thing I forgot to share. It's actually warmer planting in the compost like that. The tomatoes I put into the ground as early as March 15th. And I put protection over them, but they did not suffer at all from cold, and they started growing very quickly because the soil is warm, because down below there's all this composting activity going on with microbes. Yes?
When you were talking about molds, I have a funny little way of getting rid of them organically. When you go get your haircut, have them put your hair cuttings into a bag, the top real small, and sprinkle it over all the little holes that you can find in your yard. This attaches to the little mold and makes the community really good. And they all just take off and go somewhere else.
I'm very excited to hear that, but I've also heard that it will also scare away squirrels. Because this is the first year, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but this is the first year that I have seen squirrels eating my flowers off of the shrubs. They got into all of my vegetable garden and ate down. I couldn't believe. And then I also have the cutest bunny rabbit. But he's eating my bluebonnets to the ground and my wine cup to the ground. And so I put cages around all my flowers.
Peppermint and cinnamon will keep away the squirrels.
Okay, I will try that. I'm willing to try that. Anything like that. Yes, ma'am.
The hole that you have in the middle of the Keyhole Garden, that's where you put your compost.
The fresh,
food scraps?
all my food scraps.
Wire around it?
Yes, I can go back to the slide.
Slide up again,
Yes.
please.
I'm getting the one that shows, there we go. That one shows better. Do you see, this particular design is just a lattice work, but you can take chicken wire and create a curve, or you can take cattle panels, which are larger, and create.
Dirt from the outside doesn't come in?
Yes, it does, but that's the first thing you should fill with all of these composting materials at first, because in actuality, which I just found out by doing more research prior to this talk, do you see this area right here? I should have had soil up to there and draining down. So this, when I reconstruct the first generation, that's how I'm going to build it. I'll put more compostable material in the middle first, and then continue the layers around it, and then the nice topsoil, kind of volcano sides from there. And then you water you don't have to water the whole space. You water into, you pour your water in here. And when the water goes through, it takes any dissolvable compost tea ingredients and it disperses that throughout the bed. And the very bottom has all these sticks in it, so there's all this air down there, and the microbes are happy to climb up and do their thing.
Would you put that slide with your layers
Yes.
up again, please?
It's eventually, there we go.
Thank you.
Other questions, other thoughts? Yes, ma'am. With which one? Okay, tree roots is another reason why I want to test the tote or Ben gardening, because it's a mini keyhole garden situation, because I put the sticks at the bottom and the green layer and the brown layers, and then I've got a composting, fresh compost to add to it in that picture. And since it's up on a chair, tree roots will never grow into it. Now, when you watch this woman, Robbie, in South California, okay, it's Southern California, okay, she grows so much zucchini and tomatoes, and I mean, she just got vegetables out the wazoo. It's just, I'm like, how do you and your husband consume that much vegetable matter? Because that's the other thing. I'm just trying to plant for the two of us, and when there's an overabundance, I give it to my neighbors, but I try not to, I'm not trying to, I haven't figured out how to can yet, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that much planting. I don't know that I don't know if I'm built that way. Does that make sense to go through or okay, coming up with a good way to freeze it would be, I just don't have good recipes. I'm just, ladies and gentlemen, I am just so excited that I've grown something that I can actually eat. Because I never was able to do that. It is such an excitement to me, because I've always been able to grow the native plants and the wildflowers and the perennials, and I love them. That was my first love. But I'm really getting a kick out of this. Really getting a kick out of this. Any other question? Yes?
Early on, you talked about your squash borer problem, and I've seen things where gardeners will put melons in hosiery to pull them off the ground.
Right.
I wonder if
No,
that
they don't attack the fruit, they attack the actual stem. They bore through the stem and consume the inside of the stem, and then it kills the entire plant.
put the hosiery over all of it.
Well, that's why I'm saying, I'm thinking, that's the other thing that Robbie and Gary's YouTube channel has shown me how to make very inexpensive netting cages. And so I just have to sit down sometime when there's quietness going on and try to build something like this.
Maybe it's used for pantyhose and people don't wear it anymore.
Right. Well, she uses good old-fashioned netting like we used to, wedding veils. She just uses netting. Tulle, thank you, tulle. So that's kind of where I am. Yes?
I have heard, but I haven't tried it. If you put like toilet paper, toilet paper, cardboard roll, and then put a dryer, an old dryer inside of that should protect it from the.
Okay, I can see it has mechanical advantage, and it also has a scent possible repellent. That's an interesting thought. As I say, I'm looking into and exploring how to do. So if you all you've beat the zucchini borer, because that I would love to have a bumper crop of, because I could freeze that without any problem. Because zucchini bread is to die for. I love it. I love it. Any other questions or thoughts, or? I think we're good.
Thank you very much.
I think we're good.